Hey everybody, we'll start in a second. Just I'm on my laptop, so let me know if the audio balance is okay with Charlemagne and I. Um, just I haven't done a stream on my laptop in a while. Just not at my apartment at the moment, so we'll start whenever he comes on. It's a couple minutes early. I just like to do a pre-stream so people have a chance to show up. I'm not gonna pull a Fuentes and have like an hour long. Fuentes' free streams sometimes go for like multiple hours. Um, so yeah, I hope everybody's having a good week so far. Um, things completely crazy. Also, let me know if there's like a dropping issue. Um, so I don't know. I'm getting an error message that says there's frame skipped, so let me know if it's really bad. Then I'll just restart. Um, Whatever it is. You might hear Cosmic Cat in the background. Rain's just in her evening phase, so she's kind of running around and going crazy. But yeah, so so maybe briefly, just before Matthew, I watched two advertisement. Your southern neighbors apologize. Also, thanks. Giving is tomorrow. Okay. The degenerate version of Thanksgiving is tomorrow. Um, People who are like not degenerates celebrated Thanksgiving like a month ago or something like that. But yeah, people sometimes ask why I care so much because people keep asking me to cover Canadian politics. Because I do like what a lot of Canadians do, where I kind of act like the American president is the leader of my country. And I mean, there's that aspect of it. Um, I get that that's weird, and I get it's weird to look to Trump as basically my leader instead of the leader of my country. At this point in time, though, the world, um, the way the world is that Trump is kind of necessarily the leader of the global movement by virtue of the fact that he's the only one who can really do anything about big tech censorship and the big media conglomerates. And for all of us throughout the world who care about our race or religion or our culture or whatever, not just like in the West, but in Japan and that kind of thing, and like Christians in China and that sort of stuff. Trump is the only one who can realistically do anything about any of that. So I kind of have to support him because it's just kind of the way that it is. Um, so I'm just going to go use the washroom and we'll start.
Let's go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I have my friend Charlemagne on, and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff. The election, obviously. He has some stories from the day after election. He was also at the Million MAGA March. I just kind of wanted us to start off by saying it's not as if I didn't respect you before, but you've gained a lot of respect from additional respect for me just for like so
Hmm.
I'm sure you've seen just a lot of people who are have either given up or like Ramsey Paul who are actively trying to prevent other people from uh, fighting on this issue.
Um, you're cutting out a bit, but
Oh,
I
okay.
heard, yeah, but I heard most of that, so definitely appreciate that and thanks. And yeah, I mean, some of the demoralization and you know, I guess just seeing people who are just kind of ready to just take this on the chin, um, it is a bit frustrating because I do feel like this is a time to fight. And I mean, you mentioned going to the Million MAGA March and stuff, and I mean, one of the things I did that and will continue to go to other rallies if possible is just because I don't want to just sit here and be some sort of armchair intellectual or something when there's real stuff happening on the ground. And I'm also willing to just submit myself to being a part of you know the crowd, um, as you might say, when I think that's useful, right? And like, just become one of the many people at this event supporting the president, not as someone of note, but just one of the normal people who are also there. I think it's really important for all of us, I suppose, minor people who you know sit around talking on YouTube or wherever. Um, to be willing to, I guess, humble ourselves and just enter into the fray like any other person, and not just sit here and preach. I mean, that's not directed at anyone in particular, but that's just kind of my motivation to stay in the fight as much as possible.
Right. I think especially when we talk about stuff like the Million MAGA March. I mean, at least there's a lot of people there, so I guess it's a bit harder to dox everybody. Um, than at something like Charlottesville or something like that. But yeah, I agree. I mean, at this point in time, the most important thing I think was just to show that there was support for President Trump. Because it did look like a lot of people, it looked like the media at least tried to make it look like everyone was abandoning him, that all hope was lost, that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, just there's an expression the future belongs to those who show up for it. And I've also gained a lot of
Exactly.
respect for Nick. I mean, I still think he can be a bit cringy and he has to get rid of Baked Alaska, but he put his money where his mouth is. He's got the Groypers like going out. He's doing regular protests. He's giving speeches. I really respect him for like not being a doomer and just saying we're gonna go fight. Um, and I
Yeah,
just
same.
and I just think like us on the right, one of the reasons we've lost every single battle for like the last 50 years is because people just give up and then they're like, okay, well, we're just gonna go live in our little corner and give up on like the institutions.
Yeah, I mean, for all the complaining we've done and disillusionment and dissatisfaction we have with the United States and our republic, at the same time, especially when I see the people of the nation gathering and I feel this calling to support them. I'm not just going to let the thing be run over, because we do. I've done this before. I hate to declaration post, but we do have this thing called the consent of the governed. And we may not think that the system we have is ideal, but it is the system, and there are rules. And if we're going to live in a democracy, in a republic, at the very least, we have to insist that the elections at least be legitimate, even if we don't, you know, prefer democracy as a system. Um, I mean, we still have to have rules, and the rules have to be respected. And there are times when we just can't give up, especially when there's a guy, a leader, despite all of his flaws and all the ways he may have disappointed, this or that part of the right. I mean, you look at what's happening right now. Is there any other politician or Republican who would actually stand up to this stuff in the way he's doing it right now? I mean, I can't. I have to support this, right? I mean, I don't see any way I could, you know. I guess the only way is I suppose I could intellectualize myself into some corner where, I wouldn't support the president. But I think we have to step up. We have to take action. We have to be men of action, because ultimately the people who determine what is going to happen in society is actually the small number of people who are willing to take action, right? I mean, all of the hundreds of thousands of people who went to Washington, that's a small segment of the population, but those people are setting the course, I think. In showing the president that he has the populist support there. It is real, and it doesn't matter how much the media gaslights and pretends the rallies aren't happening. I mean, the president was there in the rally. He drove through it. He saw it, and they can't hide that from the only person that rally even mattered for. Like, in my view, the entire point of the Million MAGA March thing in DC was for the president to see it, right? And it worked.
I
As far as
mean,
I'm concerned.
because ultimately, and I know Serp goes through this too, because he is in a lot of ways a proud American, but he also kind of hates America. Um, and I kind of feel that about Canada too, because at the end of the day, it's home. Um,
Hmm.
it may have a stand for a lot of things you don't like, but like I've lived my entire life in Southern Ontario, and it's just kind of hard. Um, and just kind of giving up. Um, something I guess kind of before we get into the rest of it. So I was kind of arguing with some people on Twitter earlier who were saying it's cope. Trump actually lost the election. All the affidavits are bullshit. We're losing all the court cases. It just something kind of occurred to me. Even if, let's pretend that this was a grift and this is all bullshit, for those of us who don't believe the media, how would we even know at this point?
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned how it's really confusing what's even going on, and we basically have two competing narratives, and there could be truth value in either, truth value in neither. It's really hard to tell. To some extent, I don't even care.
No,
What I
like
care about is,
I mean,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
don't, I honestly, and people have gotten angry with me saying this. I honestly don't even really care if Trump legitimately won the election. I just, because I mean, you or I don't like. I mean, we can talk about we live in a society which try to follow rules, but at the end of the day, if through legal shenanigans Trump can become president again, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, we are. It's an interesting situation we're in too, because I feel the same way, even though I just talked about following the rules and something. But like, one of my motivations too is, I mean, as far as I can tell, the United States is about to be conquered by a foreign internationalist cabal, um, and I simply can't stand by and let that happen. And that's what I mean more about the consent of the governed, right? It's not just about this election. It's about there's a foreign force that's literally invading and taking over the country. And for all of America's flaws, I mean, it is my nation, my homeland, my people, and I'm simply not going to be one to stand for that, no matter who's in office. I couldn't care less if Trump was George Bush or something, right? Like, I'm simply not going to side against the one guy who's apparently pro-American. I mean, and again, for all of his flaws, for all of America's flaws, I simply can't sit by while internationalists obviously and blatantly take over the country. That's simply not acceptable. And I mean, this transcends all of the class-based conflict, racial conflict, economic conflict, whatever that we argue about on left and right. I mean, this is at the highest level. We're literally about to be conquered, and I think that has to be our primary concern at the moment is preventing that from happening.
Yeah, sorry, just back to what I was the previous comment for a second. It's the hysteria that the media has built, and not just the media, but other organizations, corporations, the judiciary is such that I was kind of arguing with someone, and they're like, okay, if you don't believe any of these people, then what would you believe that runs counter to the Trump narrative? And I'm like, they've created this scenario in which like the media was never impartial, but it was. I think we can all agree. I don't think I've ever seen it nearly this bad, but like I guess there isn't really. It's just you either believe everything the president says or you don't. Um,
Yeah, or you at least side with him. I mean, you don't even necessarily have to believe everything he
right.
says,
Yeah,
but
that's what I mean. Yeah. So
yeah, it seems obvious which side is evil and which side is not in this particular conflict.
I think like actually ironically enough, Michael Moore said something back in 2016 that really made me support Trump more. If you look at everybody the average person feels screwed them, they all are telling them not to vote for Trump. Like literally everybody, like banks, like credit card companies, the guy who exported your job, the like smug professor who told you like off the media, all these people who've made your life worse are telling you don't vote for Trump. It's going to be the end of the world. And whenever I kind of almost feel like abandoning him, the people who are against him are just such massive. Well, I can't say. Yeah,
Hmm.
you know what I mean.
You cut out a bit there, but so we didn't hear your substitute for what you couldn't say.
Um,
Um,
I
you're
just
probably
said.
just too far from the mic.
Oh, I just said I couldn't say it on YouTube. So.
Yeah. Well, I feel the same way, right? It's the my pro Trump position I think is a lot less to do with him in particular and more who his enemies are. And I mean, you see the worst people in the entire planet um, telling you, um, we don't like this guy, and we're basically willing to do anything to keep him out. Um, and I mean, that kind of tells me all I need to know, honestly, is